Welcome to Scorpio Soul Time. I'm Ronique, and I appreciate you joining me here on my YouTube channel. Every lunation cycle, which occurs about every 2 weeks or so, we get together and I discuss the astrology that is occurring here on Earth. As they say, as above, so below. So whatever planets and aspects that they are making and transits that are occurring up in the heavens, they do affect us here directly on Earth. So it's really a great time every 2 weeks to kind of check in, almost like a weather forecast for your life, to figure out how you can bob and weave, if you will, with the energies to capitalize on them, to make your life a little easier, and to know what's coming down the pipeline so that you can plan your life accordingly. I appreciate all of my new subscribers. If you're new here, I appreciate you coming. And for all of my old subscribers, I appreciate you still coming back every few weeks to join me. So today we are going to talk about the new moon solar eclipse in Gemini that occurs at 20 degrees of Gemini on June 10th, 2021. And it is at 6:53 Eastern Standard Time, or you can adjust it depending on where you are on the planet. So at this new moon solar eclipse in Gemini, the sun and the moon and the north node are all sitting at 20 degrees of Gemini. And so this is going to be a really potent time around those Gemini themes: communication, meeting with others. This is a really potent time for getting information out, working with community, working in smaller groups. If you have to travel, short distance travel is always welcome during Gemini. Gemini is actually the first air sign of the zodiac, so it's very much dealing with our thoughts and how we, our intellect, and how we interact with not only ourselves but with others. And so what's interesting though is that at this new moon solar eclipse in Gemini, the sun, the moon, and Mercury, which is retrograde, all are conjunct at this new moon solar eclipse. So this is going to be the last solar eclipse in this ecliptic cycle. Remember, 2 weeks ago we had that total blood moon, full moon lunar eclipse in Sagittarius, which was really potent. But we're now coming into, that was more of an ending energy, and this is more of a beginning energy, meaning planting seeds of intentions. But I want to warn you that since Mercury is in retrograde, and remember Mercury is Gemini is ruled by Mercury, this energy is going to be almost like this tug of war between trying to get communication out and not being able to understand the communications that come through. Because remember, Mercury is retrograde, so information is going to be jumbled up. It's not going to be clear. Me just trying to shoot this video today has taken almost 2 hours just because my computer wasn't connecting to the Wi-Fi, and then my app that I use on my phone to connect to my computer so that I can see the cards wasn't working, and then our Wi-Fi kept like being spotty. So that's like typical Gemini, Mercury in retrograde in Gemini. It's like that communication wants to come out, but it's going to take a little longer. It's going to take, possibly some patience on your part. Another thing I also want to point out before we move too far is that the sun is actually squaring Neptune over here in Pisces. And so that's going to be this energy of like, almost like the rose-colored glasses that maybe you've heard me speak of before. Like, you might be hearing things that are maybe too good to be true, or information could come to you that sounds really great in the moment, and then 3 weeks from now, as we get into July, you realize, okay, that was definitely too good to be true. So be careful with the sun squaring Neptune, because the sun is squaring Neptune, the sun is conjunct the moon, and the sun is conjunct Mercury. And the sun obviously is conjunct the ascendant with the whole north node. So this is really going to be this energy of like communications could really take a a misstep, if you will. Like, just pay attention, check everything 2 and 3 times over. If you're emailing someone, make sure you're looking in the to column. I've noticed a lot of people miss, you know how you're quickly like writing a 2 in the to column in the email. I've had a lot of Gibson email come to me over the last few days that was not really supposed to be me, and I can tell it was like someone else in their address book that was a Gibson. So those type of errors are really going to be very prevalent at this time. So please, please check everything once, twice, 3 times over and over. So another thing I want to talk about at this new moon solar eclipse is that this is really a potent time for relationships. And I pulled out the number 6 arcana, the Lovers card, and this represents the twins. This is also like the Gemini ruled card in the major arcana. And the Lovers card has to not only do with romantic relationships, but more the relationships that have to do around communication, around how is it that we interact with other people. This can also be, how do you relate to people? It doesn't always have to be communication like out of your mouth. It can also be like when you're around people, you know, body language, that type of communication. So remember, Gemini really is this intellectual sign that wants you to think about how is it that you are planting seeds of intention for this new moon solar eclipse that you want to fruition in this next year. And so from last Gemini season back in 2020, what information have you seen that is different, or what information has like come out that you now have learned from and now you can move on from? I think from the collective side, we can all agree that the communications are different than they were a year ago, right? So this can be anything from how we all now connect better on social media, or we use Zoom and Teams and all those different type of internet tools and video conferencing tools for our work. I think it's interesting how if you're someone who is on TikTok, how it is definitely no longer just the teenagers using TikTok. Now there's adults on there using it for everything from medical advice to losing weight to business ideas. This really is this great energy of like using communication in a different way than you've done in the past. So I want you to think through, as we pull cards today, think through what it is over this last year that you now are looking at differently in communication, or what is it that you haven't been able to communicate, right? So that's another side of Gemini, like the lower vibrational energy of Gemini is too many cooks in the kitchen. I like to call it the too many cooks in the kitchen vibe, where it's just like, especially when you're dealing with a lot of people who have to weigh in on a topic, maybe too many people putting in their opinions, and you literally cannot get anything moving forward because there's just too many people talking, too many people not listening to others. This happens a lot in group settings. It happens a lot like at work when, you know, one person has an idea, but then like 20 people are weighing in. So keep that in mind as well with this new moon energy in Gemini, because there definitely is this energy of like, okay, we want to communicate, but at the same time, we need to listen. And I think that especially in this Mercury in retrograde time, there's a lot of, just because you're talking and I'm talking, are either of us listening? So if you feel like you're having relationship issues, look and figure out if communication could be at the root of some of your problems or some of your challenges. If you feel like the other person isn't even listening, then you might need to wait. If this is a conversation that can be tabled until the end of retrograde, which is, I believe it's around June 21st, we should be coming out, but we still have that post shadow up until right before the beginning of July. So if it's a conversation that you're like, you know what, this might not be the best to talk about right now, please try and be patient with people, because the energies for communication are not really the best during this retrograde time. So before we pull any cards, I want to do the singing bowl. This time I was actually able to hear it. I had many comments saying that the singing bowl was a lot clearer this time. So we're going to clear my energy and clear your energy with my singing bowl. And I want to make sure that when I do this, you are thinking through in your mind, what is it that you want to clear away, as well as be open to new things in this new moon cycle. And that's another thing I want to mention, is that as we move into this new moon solar eclipse in Gemini period, there is going to be almost like a cleansing out of the old. So it's not going to be immediate, I guess is my point. Give yourself some time to plant the seeds and then wait for them to germinate and wait for them to harvest, because it definitely is this time of, it could be 6 months. So in the fall, when we have the Sagittarian energy in mid-November to December, that might be when you see some culminations, or it could take over this next year and you're waiting until 2022 to actually see many of these things fruition. Okay. All right. So I'm going to clear my energy, and I want to clear yours too. And this is really good also just to kind of like cleanse out anything that's just like jarbling up your mind, and helps you think clearer. And I think it also helps like your spirit guides be able to send messages to you easier, or you be able to receive them better. Okay. Okay, very good. All right, so today we're going to do a past, present, and future spread. And I decided today that I'm actually going to today I determined that I'm going to pull out almost like a card that is just for the theme of this new moon solar eclipse. And then I'll do a past, present, and future, and then we'll pull some clarifiers. How's that sound? All right, so before we get to those, I want you to think through, in this Gemini new moon solar eclipse period, what is it that you need to eclipse out of your life, and what new seeds of intention around those Gemini themes that we just spoke about are going to help you in your life. This can be with relationships with yourself, relationships with family, with colleagues. And there is our card, the Hierophant. All right, so the number 5 of the major arcana is the Hierophant. And in this deck, what I also find interesting is how they made this man, this like very old man with this totem type wood in the back, but it's almost like this feeling that he has like the ultimate wisdom from the gods or from like previous generations. And the Hierophant in like the Rider-Waite deck is usually like called like some people call it the Pope, but it's usually like almost looking like a priest, and he is like blessing to people or he's teaching people. So the Hierophant usually is this energy of government or any kind of agency, or, and it doesn't always have to be like a physical agency, but almost like what is like the what are the truths that hold through our test of time that we all believe in, if that makes sense. So, you know, when you go get married, you all know that there's like a specific amount of rules that you have to follow. So to me, this coming out as the main energy is almost like, what energy is there of like some kind of rules, regulations, entities that you have to follow or you've been following that either need to keep being followed, or maybe there's energies of communications from entities that you're following. So if you're waiting on information from a bank, if you're waiting on information from you know, the IRS, like if you're waiting on, maybe your church has specific, you're trying to get into a church or become a member, and there's certain levels that you have to go through and certain classes. This is that energy of like this higher entity and waiting for some type of ruling, or maybe some type of laws, something like that going through in terms of rules that you have to follow in order to get to the next step, if that makes sense. So we're going to keep that out. It's kind of interesting that that Hierophant came out. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of plays out throughout our reading. So now I'm going to do a past, present, and future spread for this new moon solar eclipse in Gemini. And I also think it's interesting that Gemini rules are anything that we read or consume from a media standpoint. So it could be magazines, books, computers, group chats, like I was saying, in terms of like how we all interact with each other. I think it's interesting how many people are working from home now. So that's another thing I'm just thinking about with this Hierophant. If you're someone who works from home and maybe you're having to get all of you know, the rules and regulations from your company on how you can work from home. Maybe you're now, you've been working from home and you all are transitioning back into the office. There definitely is some kind of energy around communication and having to like listen to some higher authoritative person or entity in order to move forward. So that will probably be themes that come up for all of us as the collective as we move through this Gemini season. And remember, the effects of an eclipse can last up to 6 months. So like I said, this energy will last us all the way until Sagittarian energy later in mid-November to December. And another thing I want to mention is on Scorpio Soul Time, I actually have an eclipse playlist. And what I like about that playlist is that you don't have to sort through all of the videos that we've done. You can literally just go by 6-month increments and see how have you changed from that previous eclipse cycle, or you can go all the way back a year ago and see how you've changed through the eclipse cycle. So keep that in mind on Scorpio Soul Time. I have them all organized for you, so it's really easy to find. Okay, so I think I already cut the deck before, but when I start talking, I like to do it again. So in the past, we have the 4 of Swords in reverse. In the present, we have the 7 of Swords upright. So already a lot of air energy, which makes sense with us being in Gemini. And in the future, Ah, we have the Five of Cups in reverse. Thank goodness it's in reverse. Okay. So I want to say there was a video we did. I wonder if it was that Sagittarian video for that full moon eclipse. I want to say we had the Seven of Swords, but let's I digressed. Okay, so the Four of Swords upright usually means it's time for a rest. In the Rider-Waite deck, it's usually a knight or someone who has come off the battlefield and they are literally trying to rest, or a warrior. And these swords here are dictating like you either need to take care of yourself, it's time to rest, maybe you've been putting too much mental energy towards something. With it in reverse, I'm getting this energy of maybe you've been trying to rest, but you haven't been able to, or maybe you've been through so much mental exhaustion, if you will, that you're trying to move on from not being able to rest. Like, the only thing when I see it in reverse is I get concerned about people's health, and more like mental health. Like, are you not able to take a rest? Are you not able to, maybe you're overstressed, you're overworked, you're doing too many things. I always talk about the analysis paralysis. Are you thinking through things too much? So in that reverse position in the past, this looks to me like there's some kind of energy, mental energy, that you needed to rest from, but you maybe weren't able to. So I'm glad that I don't see that theme moving forward. But what I do see in the present with the Seven of Swords is someone looks like they're trying to pull the wool over your eyes, or someone's trying to get away with something. Many times they call this the Thief card, which is this woman has 5 swords, 2 are in the ground, and you can see she's looking over her shoulder as if she's stealing or taking away some energy that you probably needed. Or this could be you trying to pull the wool over someone else's eyes. Anytime I see the Seven of Swords, I tell people to be careful, especially with information. So with us in this Gemini Mercury retrograde, this totally could be someone trying to steal your identity. It could be someone, and it doesn't always have to be that extreme, but it could be. It could be someone trying to pull the wool over your eyes, like they told you some information, but it wasn't quite all the information, like they're trying to get away with something. Or like I said, this could be your energy, and whether you are trying to manipulate a situation. Remember that Neptune I told you is squaring the sun at the time of this new moon solar eclipse. So this totally could be that rose-colored glasses that I was talking about, where something maybe looks too good to be true. Maybe someone gave you an offer and they're trying to get away with something. Do not go and try to purchase a new car or something that's really expensive during this time if you don't have to, because this also could be an energy of you are being manipulated into purchasing something, or you didn't read all the fine print and someone is trying to get away with something. So just keep that in mind with the Seven of Swords in the present, because that totally could be that energy of miscommunication, someone trying to get away with something, or like I said, that could be you. So be careful with that. All right, so moving into the future, we have this Five of Cups in reverse. The Five of Cups is really never a welcomed card, because it's one of these cards like you're focusing more on the things that you don't have rather than the things that you do. Cups are emotional energy. So that could also be a water sign. So it could also be a Scorpio, Cancer, or Pisces. This also could be energy of you not realizing life is better than what you realize. And so with it in reverse, I'm actually happy to see this in reverse. This is one of the few cards I like seeing in reverse, because this really means like Okay, maybe you are having second thoughts and now realizing, okay, life really isn't as bad as I've been focusing on. Maybe in the future, you're going to start trying to get a better handle of you not being kind of like pity party all the time and worrying about what's going on in, you know, your emotional world. This may be someone around you who's been kind of throwing a pity party for themselves. But I want to do some clarifier cards to see like what is going on with kind of like this, I'm calling it kind of like deceiving energy, but then there's kind of like a feel sorry for me or feel sorry for yourself energy and not resting up from things in the past. So this is an interesting one. And I think, whoop, and there fell out the Empress. So the Empress is interesting because the Empress energy is a major arcana card, but this is like that seeds of intention card. And exactly what I was saying about this new moon, this really, any kind of new moon solar eclipse is like a starting energy. And so I feel like that Empress could be an energy of you trying to plant seeds, birth something into creation, but maybe there's someone that you have to go through before you can do it. There could be some kind of entity, especially like a small business that you're trying to start. The Empress is always really good energy because it's that Venus energy. See, there's Venus. But I think it's interesting with that Venus. Remember I told you she's squaring the sun at this new moon eclipse. So there could be this tension too of like wanting to start something, but there could be entities either slowing you down or someone trying to get away with something. Let's pull some clarifiers and see. So Spirit, please give us some clarifiers for the Four of Swords in the past, the Seven of Swords in the present, and the Five of Cups in reverse in the future. I just heard cut them again, so we will cut them again. All right, so to clarify the Four of Swords, we have the World card. So that's a good sign in the past. That means you have closed a chapter, you have moved on. So it looks like from that Four of Swords, that's really positive energy, like you are ready to start anew. In the present, Seven of Swords clarifier is the Ten of Cups in reverse. That's still a positive energy because it looks like maybe whatever or whomever is trying to pull the wool over your eyes, maybe you have a opportunity, excuse me, emotionally to not, it doesn't affect you as much as it could have, but with it in reverse, there is kind of like this energy of, is it something related to your family? Not quite sure. Okay, and then the Five of Cups clarifier is the Page of Wands. So there's definitely going to be some kind of fire energy, possibly a Leo, Aries, or this could be Sagittarius energy coming in the future. And then I also heard turn over the bottom of the deck. So we have that Queen of Wands. So really interesting with that Queen and that Page. So let me look at this and see. Yeah, so there definitely is this energy in the past of like, even though maybe you weren't able to get over that analysis paralysis, you were maybe overthinking things too much, you didn't have a chance to rest or heal. It seems like you've moved on. It seems like you've been able to, with the World card, the last card of the major arcana, this is like the ending of a cycle. So this really is this energy of maybe the Four of Swords that were like keeping you from kind of getting momentum or feeling like you could get fully rested. Maybe you've been able to deal with that in your everyday world now at this new moon solar eclipse, and you're ready to move on. Like you've squashed it, that's all in the past, and you're ready to start anew. So that's really positive energy. I like to see the world in the past, because that means now you're like, you've almost like made a clean break, and now you're ready to start anew. So the 7 of Swords upright and the 10 of Cups in reverse. So the 10 of Cups, when it's upright, really positive sign, really happy. Your family is happy. You're emotionally feeling fulfilled. 10 energy, though, usually is something that is ending. So with it in reverse, I'm almost getting this energy of like, whomever, whether it be you or someone else who's trying to maybe pull the wool over your eyes, or maybe misinformation coming in. I'm kind of getting the sense that it could be something that affects your family. So this could be something like, you know, I was saying, like if you're going to buy a car, or you're trying to, you know, maybe your car broke down, and for the family trip, you were going to be taking a car, but now you have to rent a car for the summer vacay with the family. And you know, it's going to be okay, but there's still kind of like that lingering, like, you know, did we really get the best deal for this car? Like, did someone try to pull the wool over our eyes? So just keep that in mind as you go through this energy, because this is the present. So to me, it's kind of like, don't take everything for face value during this time, meaning like you might have to do a little more research. You might need to do a little more digging in. I don't think it's the worst thing, meaning like since this 10 of Cups came out, it's almost like it might be more of an annoyance type thing. It might just be more of an inconvenient type thing, as opposed to it being just like blatant, like someone lying or someone stealing. Like it might not be that bad as when I first pulled it. I was kind of getting that energy of like identity theft and just dealing with the whole Gemini. But now that I see this 10 of Cups in reverse, I feel like it's more of kind of an annoyance. Like maybe something is just like making something more inconvenient for you on your family trip or something. But with this 5 of Cups in reverse, and then this Page of Wands and Queen of Wands in the future, I'm really feeling like there's some positive momentum here from this energy, because the 5 of Cups, like I said, is that energy of like you're crying over spilt milk, you're worried about what can happen in the future. But I'm almost now feeling like you've kind of moved on from that, and you're realizing maybe you were throwing a pity party for yourself. But the Queen of Wands and Page of Wands, like I said, that's that fire energy. So I'm really feeling like that Sagittarius energy that we just came out of from the full moon lunar eclipse in Sagittarius on, I think it was on May 26th. To me, that is still playing out here, because this fire energy is more of this like some kind of information, possibly from a child or a younger person, is going to come through. But then with this Queen of Wands, there's almost this energy of like more of an authoritative messages are going to be coming through that have to do maybe with a passion project, since it's fire. It could be something that you've been waiting on for a while, and you're going to get some messages as we come up into these next 6 months. Because remember, this energy, that's another thing, is that I feel like this Sagittarian energy is still playing off of Gemini. Because remember, the Gemini's in the North Node, and the North Node is in Gemini, and the South Node is in Sagittarius. So there's this energy almost of like, as we keep moving towards the fall, I feel like you're going to be getting messages about this Hierophant and Empress. Almost like there's some kind of authoritative entity that's going to be just kind of nudging you along and trying to see if you want to start something new, if you're ready to start something new, or if you need to. I'm going to pull another clarifier up here, because there's like a piece missing that I'm trying to figure out how that Hierophant and Empress play out, because I can see here how you've like moved through an energy, And this is the thing about eclipses, is because since you're starting something new, you might not have all the information right now. And that might be what is causing kind of like this, I feel like there's like a disjointedness, if you will. And it's almost like we have to probably move through the next 3-4 months before we kind of see the cycle. It's no different than, you know, if you're here to go run a race and you don't know how long the race is going to be, and you're just at the beginning and you're like, I don't know how long this is going to be. I don't know if I'm going to conk out. I don't know if I'm going to make it. It's like you're too in the beginning of the cycle to even know how the race is going to go. And so I feel like that's what's happening here with this new moon solar eclipse. Is like the eclipse literally is clipping everything from the past, thus the world card, and now you're starting fresh. And so it's almost like you don't have all the answers yet, and you're especially not gonna get them here in this Gemini Mercury retrograde. You're just not. So it's kind of like, just be open to new ideas and new experiences, and don't think you're gonna have all the answers right now, next month. I mean, it's almost like a trickling effect, because it's like the sun and the moon are kind of like trying to go forward, but then Mercury is trying to go backward. So it's like you're really not moving. Does that make sense? So let me see if I can pull a clarifier for that Hierophant and Empress at the top, because there's something that I'm wondering, how does this play out with this like Sagittarian fire energy for the future? Ah, look at there, Strength. So there definitely is this is another major arcana card. So it's no surprise that the 3 clarifiers are all major arcana cards, which signifies to me like we have some major growth that's going to occur in this new moon solar eclipse in Gemini season, because it's just so much energy. And anytime you're in eclipse season, it's kind of like you're between worlds. It's like you're not fully into one world because you still have a few feet back into the other world. And so I really think that the Strength card, which is number 8 of the major arcana. So we have the 8, the 5, and the 3. Very interesting, because 5 plus 3 equals 8. So that's kind of, it's almost like, how do they say they're derivatives of each other? It's like 5 plus 3 equals 8, or 8 minus 3 equals 5. It's almost like they're all talking to each other. And it's like the Strength card is almost like there's this balance that is needed. A balance between like purity and almost like this strength of like trying to move forward. But it's almost like each of you have to tame each other, if that makes sense. And so to me, it's like you want to move forward to plant these seeds, but the universe is saying you're going to have patience. You're going to have to work with whatever entities are trying to control you, maybe. But there definitely is this energy of like, it's going to come, but it's not going to be as cut and dry as you would like. There's going to be kind of like this working and tug of war, kind of, if you will, with some kind of entity, because you can see that there's this like, something is kind of hidden. You're kind of like not the happiest about it, but you're like waiting for messages. But the bright side is that your family and that ending of like a past that was very tiring is gone. And so I think what we're experiencing here is like that whole eclipse cycle is like we're waiting for the new cycle to begin, and it doesn't just start. Like it's just kind of like how I hate to say the pandemic, but you know, it's kind of like how we went through 2020. It's kind of like the events kind of like trickled out over the year, and then by the time we got to like this year, we can now look back on it with fresh eyes. That's kind of like what I feel here, is like We're gonna have to be patient as it rolls out, but I definitely feel like you have this hard break that you've moved on from, but we're gonna all have to be very cognizant of this Mercury retrograde and all of this energy in Gemini with these swords. But there is this energy of like, work through it, be patient, see how the world unfolds, see how you've matured from that last. That's the other thing with that Hierophant. I'm almost feeling like this maturity of like, look back on the last 6 months and see how you've matured. Look back on the last 12 months and see how you've matured. Because this Gemini solar eclipse, this is literally going to be the last solar eclipse in Gemini for 9 years. So this definitely is like a slow moving energy. So I don't think that it's any coincidence that you can tell like the themes that are kind of like peppered in, but nothing makes one cohesive whole, if that makes sense. I feel like that full moon that we had in Sagittarius, that was really like cut and dry. I invite you to go back and look at that, because I think that it will give you some clues as to what is coming with this Page of Wands and Queen of Wands. I definitely think that's some Sagittarian energy from that total blood moon eclipse that we just had. Okay, you all, I'm really anxious to see how this new moon solar eclipse in Gemini plays out for you. And if you want to leave me comments and let me know how things are going with you, how this energy played out with you. I know for me that eclipse was really interesting because it really started getting me more in tune with my health, and I'm now just realizing like the path that I was taking, like there's some lessons to be learned and many things that I've thought was good for me over the years, and now I'm kind of like, okay, maybe I need to move to a different direction. So I definitely think that that's kind of like a lot of this energy too, is like there's lessons to be learned. Like that Seven of Swords definitely is like a teaching lesson, and I think this Strength card is definitely a teaching lesson. So I can't wait to hear how this new moon solar eclipse plays out in your life in Gemini. If you haven't subscribed to Scorpio Soul Time, I would appreciate if you would share it with your friends, comment, and I will talk to you all later on Scorpio Soul Time. Bye.